Okay, Parshas Pekudei. So, okay, this week's Parsha starts out, the Pasuk says, Ele Pekudei HaMishkan. So the word Ele Pekudei, the Unclos translate, these are the countings of the Mishkan. So seemingly the purpose of the Parsha here is counting. Okay, this is going to be a count of everything that was given. That seems to be the simple way to understand the word Pekudei. Now, there's another way to learn the word Pekudei, which we've talked about before. We've seen it before in Bamidbar, which is to assign, to give an assignment. But simply put here, it seems, this is the way most of the Meforshim learn, that this is the counting. What's the idea behind this parsha? Is that the Jews brought their donations to build the Mishkan, and now Moshe wants to give an accounting of exactly what was given. Now, why do you want to do that? So the Medrash says an incredible thing, that Moshe heard the people murmuring and saying, yeah, look at Moshe, they saw his back, his big neck apparently, and they said, yeah, well, what do you expect? The person who's in charge of all the donations is going to be doing pretty well for himself. So when Moshe heard that there was a chashad, there was suspicion in Moshe Rabbeinu, so Moshe said, okay, I'm going to make sure to give an accounting of every single thing that I took for the building of the Mishkan. Okay, which is very strange that we choshed Moshe, and very strange that the Parsha has to be Moshe telling over his accounting, especially we know there's certain places where it says by the Navi where they gather for the Bedek Habayis to build the base of Mikdash, to build it up, and they didn't have to give an accounting. The Gabbais were trusted. Okay, but Moshe here has to give an accounting apparently. Now, what's very strange though is the Medrash, the Zohar continues, and then it starts telling what Moshe was relating, what he actually gathered. According to the Ramban, this accounting is not going to go on the gold per se, because the gold, even though the gold was made for certain items, it also was made as a tzipui, as an outer layer for many of the vessels. So that can't be an exact counting. So according to the Ramban, it wasn't even going on that, even though it says what the zav was, he wasn't really giving the accounting on that. It's mostly giving the accounting on the kesef and the zav, the gold, the silver, and the nechoshet and the copper, which makes the question we're about to ask even stranger, because the Medrash says that when Moshe was given the accounting of everything, he says how much they gathered, and then it says they gathered vayhi me'as kikar akesef. Let's say Adnei HaKodesh. They gathered the 100 kikar of kesef, and that was all that was used for the 100 bases, the Adnei HaKodesh that there were, right? It says there were 48 krushim, and then there was another 4 at the entrance. They had bases to each. It comes out that the kikars that they gathered, the kikar me'as kizar kesef, what they gathered from the Jewish people in kesef, in silver, was used for the bases of the Mishkan. Now, the Medrash then says that there was some missing, and Moshe forgot what he did with the extra. And then there was a whole big murmuring. What? Moshe, yeah, there's more. We gathered more than that. And Moshe forgot. He didn't remember what he did with the extra beyond what was made for the bases of the Mishkan, for the Adonim. And a baskol, different ways it's brought, but Hashem says and announces for him the next part of the pasuk, where it says, "Ve'esa elef," and the 1,775 parts of silver that he forgot, that was used for the vavim. The vavim were the hooks that were made for the amudim. We had the amudim, the pillars around the chatzer, and there was hooks that they hooked on the kolayim, the partition. Tzipa Roshei Mechisha Kosam, that was used as these additional parts. That was the extra silver that Moshe forgot what it was, and the Bas Kol came out and said, don't worry, this is what it was. Very, very strange. I mean, first of all, the whole purpose of, according to what we said before, of saying this story over, repeating it, is to give a testimony on what we gathered. So, and according to Ramban, it was specifically for the gold, for the silver, and for the nechoshet, and for the copper. And then Moshe forgets. That was the whole point. How could it be? And besides that, how could it be that Moshe forgets anyway? I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu just forgot. That obviously cannot be just an accidental thing that he simply forgot, and we needed a heavenly voice to tell us, Ruach HaKodesh has to tell us the parts that Moshe forgot. Obviously, much deeper than that. So I want to try to explain that. And I also want to explain a little bit why, when we read the Parshas, although we're on a different cycle than the Chagim, it always works out that there's some connection to the Parsha, to what's happening in the time. So the fact that Pekudei always comes around Purim time, that's going to be very significant, and I'd like to discuss that also. Okay, let us begin. So now we have a statement, and it's brought in all the Sfarim, that there are, the term Yisrael, Israel, is an acronym, stands for Yesh Shishim Ribo Osis LaTorah. There are 600,000 letters in the Torah. Okay, now if you count them, you might not see exactly the number, but that's not a problem because letters are combinations, like a taf is a resh and a nun. So, but there are 600,000 letters in the Torah. Now, why is that significant, and why is that lined up with the term Yisrael, the Jewish people? Because the every soul has a connection and is part of the Torah, and together Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, make up the Torah. Our inner essence is bound with the Torah, and therefore everyone is found in the Torah. Okay, the very famous story with the Ramban, Nachmanides, who had a student who became a heretic, and it says he pulled Nachmanides out of the shul on Yom Kippur, and he was eating chazer in front of him. He was now like a big person in Spain in the church, and he said to Nachmanides, "It's your fault because you said everyone's hinted at in not in the Torah, it was in the Parshas Hazinu, even that one parsha was hinted at. So if that's true, where am I?" So Nachmanides thought about it. He had Ruach HaKodesh, and he quoted the pasuk in Hazinu, where this person's name appeared. And the pasuk says there that the person, I'll remove his memory from the world. And he says to him that every third letter of that verse spells your name Avner. And the student became shocked. He couldn't believe it, that on the verse that talks about leaving Hashem and abandoning the Torah, that his name appeared there. It wasn't every third letter, his name appeared there. So he said, "What do I do?" to the Ramban. The next person says, I will disperse you. And he said to me, "Better run away and leave your position in the church." And the guy fled, Avner fled, and we never heard from him again. Obviously, he did tshuva. But the point was that everyone's neshama is connected to a place in the Torah, the pasuk in the Torah, right? It says the book Evan Shlema by the Gra. Apparently, they said that Evan Shlema was Eliyahu ben Shlomo, which his name, the Vilna Gaon's name was Eliyahu, as far as his name was Shlomo. So his book Evan Shlema is based on apparently what his root in the Torah, which was Evan Shlema. But be that as it may, as far as, because it comes out in a million different scenarios, but the bottom line is that every soul has a root in the Torah. Okay. Now, you'll say, wait a minute, there are a lot more than 60,000 Jews. Yeah. But there are 600,000 central souls, neshamas, and everyone is part of a greater neshama. So like you look at a body and you'll see eyes and nose and hands. So too, they're all separate, but they're all interconnected. So there are 600,000 central souls, central neshamas. And those neshamas were the ones at Har Sinai that represented all the neshamas that were going to be connected and parts of the greater neshamas. Okay, and that's why there are 600,000 letters in the Torah, because they line up with the 600,000 central souls. Now, and they appear and that's not an accident why there's a whole development in terms of numbers. There's the Avos, and then we come to 12, the 12 tribes, 70, until we get to 600,000. That's the point where we can go and come out of Golus, of Mitzrayim, and get the Torah, because that's the crucial number for the Jewish people. Okay, very nice, beautiful. Now, the only problem is, if you look at the number of Jews that were in the Midbar that counted, the number is actually not exactly 600,000. It's 603,550. Okay, so you could say it's close enough, you know. It's like, okay, it's a lot, and it's basically the same thing. But then what's fascinating to realize is that when you count the half shekel coins that 600,000 Jews would give, it would actually make all of the bases of the Mishkan. And that's the number Moshe remembered. What he forgot was the 3,550 that were above the 600,000, their half coins equaled 1,775. That's the number he forgot. Isn't that strange? He remembered what he got as the basis of the Mishkan for the 600,000 Jews, which is the number we keep using, 600,000 souls, the 600,000 letters in the Torah. And what he forgot was the extra 3,550 Jews who gave half shekels each, which the sum total was 1,775. That's what he forgot. Not an accident. And that's what we're going to understand. Because that's the pasuk comes along and says, oh, Moshe, you remembered the souls that gave to build the Mishkan, the foundation of the Mishkan, the Adonim, the receptacle for the beams. And don't worry, Moshe, it's also Vayihi, the one, the S, and the 1,000, Ha'elef, 775 other half shekels that you got, because it was half shekels they gave, so it was 3,550 people above 600,000. So now they each give half shekel. So the 1,775 extra shekels you got, what did Moshe do? He made them for hooks and adornments on the posts on the outside of the Mishkan. He just forgot. What does that mean? He just forgot. And then the voice comes to tell him. And then where are these people? If we always say the number 600,000, isn't it strange? 600,000 with a base for the Mishkan, and the extra 3,550 that was for hooks. What does that mean? The vavim, called vavim or hooks. Let's understand this. This is very, very fascinating. The Baal Tanya talks about Klal Yisrael as being one unit. And he says an amazing thing. He says that even if you have, let's say, somebody, as we look at a body, and we see with a body, there's the head, there is the torso, there is the lower parts. So it's really all one body. And if you take a cell from any part of the body, you could recreate the whole body because it's one unit. And therefore, he explains that whether you are from the feet of the body or the head of the body, it's all one body. And therefore, even the lowest level neshama is part of a greater neshama. It's part of the same unit, right? The generation of the Midbar is called Dor Dea. It is the mind. Sanhedrin are called the eyes. What do we call? We're called Ikvis of the Mashiach. We're called the heels of Mashiach. Moshe Shapiro Zitzal, he once said to us that the soles of the feet are very fascinating. The fact that they are very callous. Walk, it's very callous. They don't feel anything. Our generation, but they like to be tickled. Entertainment. Our whole society is built on entertainment. It's fascinating. Who would have thought of this in the past? But that's the soles of the feet. But if you're part of the whole unit, you're part of the whole unit. So therefore, whether you're a high soul or low soul, you're part of one system. There's 600,000 souls. But there's another aspect. There are souls in the story of the Jews in the Midbar. There were those Jews that were the Anan, the clouds of glory would pull at them. They kicked them out. They were straggling. That's what a Amalek attacked. The ones who were outside. The low souls that were not part of the 600,000. They weren't even necessarily part of the body. What were they? They were appendage. They were kind of connected. And therefore, Moshe doesn't remember them because they are not part of the central aspect of the Jewish people. They're not coming from that aspect of Moshe. The Mursi Techa says an amazing thing. He says that these neshamas, these extra souls, are like, if you understand that it says there's 1,000 letters in the Torah, but the last 8 psukim, he says, the last 8 verses of the Machlokas and the Gemara, who wrote them? How could Moshe have written? Moshe died. Moshe Mace, he couldn't have. So he said he wrote it b'dem, he wrote it in tears. We explained that in a lot of different ways. But there's one opinion which is rejected, but it's a havamina, is that Yoshua wrote it. The conclusion is Moshe wrote it maybe in a higher level, but Yeshua had to decipher it afterwards. So he says those last 8 psukim are these extra souls. All right, it doesn't fit with our number idea, but it's the same idea that there's an aspect of the Torah that there are souls that don't exactly fit, and they're not connected to Moshe. So how were they brought into the Jewish people? These ones that were spit out by the Anan, these parts that were so low. They were made to vavim. What are vavim? The letter vav in Hebrew is a conjunction. It's the most fascinating conjunction because it's not just it connects things like ani va'ata, you and me. That's true. It connects that, but it even connects time. Right? In Hebrew, if you say you put a vav in front of it, and it's the word in past tense, it becomes future tense. Future becomes past tense. Right? Vayomer. And he said, past tense, even though it's future first, but the vav flips it around. And the vav is not only a connection of objects, it's a connection of time. It connects everything. That's the vav. But the letter vav means a connection. That's what it is, literally. The vav is and, but it connects things and it connects beyond from all of reality, time. It changes time. And that's why in Hebrew, the word of vav, vavim are hooks. Because they're connectors, they connect things. So what did Moshe make with these extra neshamas that weren't part of the central goof, the central body of Klal Yisrael? He made them hooks. He connected them, even though they may be hanging on the poles on the outside of the chatzer, and they may be outside even because if the hook is going outside and the curtain is connected to the hook, so the hook's technically outside, but it's not. It's connected, and that's why there's an amazing thing. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah talks about the different things happen after people die, and it says the Rishonim at a certain point. It says they're in Gehenna for 12 months and they get burnt up, and then it says they become afar, they become dust. Efer tachas kapas reglei tzaddikim, below the feet of the tzaddikim. So people learn that as, I know that they're destroyed, but there's a deeper meaning to it. The sages tell us not that they're destroyed, they become the support to the feet of the righteous. That means that people who are not good, not righteous, not part of it, they can still become part of the system by being connected to it in some way. And that's amazing. It's even where you see the idea of, let's say, the Jews when we left Mitzrayim. What was their great merit, though? They didn't change their clothes, they didn't change their language, change their name. It sounds very, very minimal. Yeah, it is, because they were so disconnected, but there was some place of a connection they identified, and that was enough to bring them back. And the Baal Tanya explains an amazing thing where we see throughout Jewish history people who are so disconnected from Torah, and then they say to them to kiss the cross or to do, bow down to idols, or they'll be killed. And these people, all of a sudden, they won't give their lives because they're Jewish. They weren't doing anything. That's called a pintel yid. That's called the inner aspect of the Jew that cannot be tainted, that can't be destroyed. That's there. That's even the worst person is somehow hooked in, connected, has some aspect where they are part of Klal Yisrael. And I want to extend this principle to even to a more global idea, possibly. But it's an amazing thing. It says that when Mashiach comes, we don't take converts. But then it also says that everyone becomes Gerim Gerurim. What's Gerim Gerurim? The word Begror means to drag along. So the people that remain, not the ones who are a Molech, who want to destroy the Jewish people, but those that remain, even if they don't convert, they start acting Jewish. They want to be connected. And that's a very positive thing. That is an idea that even if a person doesn't fully understand something, that they feel, I want to be hooked in to good, to righteousness. Years ago, I was flying on a plane. I was learning a certain Kabbalistic sefer, and I was making calculations of this and that. And there was a guy sitting next to me, and he leans over and he says to me, "Would you mind explaining to a goy like me what you're learning?" I was like, I don't say that word myself. I was like, that sounds, Goy actually is nation, but it's a derogatory way. I wouldn't say. So he said, what? He said it again. I said, excuse me, like, what do you mean? He said, listen, I don't know, and I don't understand the things you're learning. I just came back from a trip to Israel. I wanted to support the Jewish people. I wanted to be connected. That too is a tremendous milo, a tremendous thing. And that really is what happened here. Moshe took the extra, the neshamas, wherever they may be, if it's the ones that were kicked out of the An. I've heard it said different ways. In most texts it says it's the lowly ones from Dan that were kicked out of the Anan. I've heard it said different ways, but whatever it is, we don't know the souls, but we know that there's some aspect that seems to be so far away, and even those are going to be connected through the hooks of the Mishkan. Now, I want to go a little deeper here, because something that's very strange that says in the Megala Mukos, says something very wild here, and I was very happy that the Mustafa connects it to it. I was trying to find the connection. But the Megala Mukos says that what Hashem showed Moshe when it says, and the Elef and the 1,000, right, 775 other coins, he made him into the hooks. The Elef, he was showing him the soul of Rebbe Akiva. What? He says, yeah. The soul of Rebbe Akiva is hinted at in the Aleph. Elef. Elef is 1,000, most was the word Aleph. When Hashem first speaks to Moshe in the Mishkan, in say Vayikra, there's a small Aleph. It says Vayikra, Hashem called out to Moshe, and the Aleph is small. Different explanations why it's small. But the Murtach says that Aleph, the Aleph Z'ira, the small Aleph that Hashem called out to Moshe when he spoke to him, is the same Aleph he showed him here. That small Aleph, it's Rebbe Akiva. And he says the gematria of Aleph Z'ira, small Aleph, is Rebbe Akiva. What does it mean he showed him Rebbe Akiva? What does that mean? And how did, therefore, the small Aleph, how did that mean that he was going to understand the extra hooks. Now, it's amazing because Rabbi Akiva, it says the pasuk is that the kol yikar rasa einav. That's the pasuk that or einav. But the pasuk in Eov says, and we dash this on Rabbi Akiva, that all the yakar, all the glory that his eyes saw, and the Medrash says that Rabbi Akiva saw things that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't see. The word yakar is that glory. Now, if you take the word vayikra, the aleph, the small aleph, you take it off, and then you have the yakar from vayikra, you're left with the vav. And the Gemara says Rabbi Akiva himself was Doresh Vavim. The Gemara in Sota says that Rabbi Akiva, when he saw the Vav, he was Doresh Vav. And what is this deeper meaning for what we're talking about here? Rabbi Akiva, the word Akiva is the word Akev, heel. Rabbi Akiva was called a Ben Geri. He was the sons of converts. He was an Ama Aretz until he was 40 years old. And Rabbi Akiva is called the continuation of the Torah Shebaal Peh. And that's why things that Rabbi Akiva saw, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't even see. It was all included in Moshe, but Rabbi Akiva was the one that was coming down and looking at the tagim, the crowns of the letters, and seeing how it came out into this world. He was the Torah Shebaal Peh, the famous Gemara, where it says that when Hashem showed Moshe Rabbi Akiva, he didn't understand what he was saying. He was darshaning, he was explaining the hooks that were outside the letters, above the letters, and he was showing how he's learning all these halachas from there. And Moshe Rabbeinu didn't understand it. He said he had to sit in the 18th row. And then it says, Niskara Daita, that Moshe felt good in the end when the student said, how do you know this? He said, Lacha Moshe Sinai, I learned this from Moshe. So he felt better. It doesn't mean he felt better because he gave him credit to understand. Moshe realized Moshe's whole system was seeing the whole Torah. Rabbi Akiva was the Bechinas Torah Shebaal Peh that's taking every aspect and hooking it back to show us in the Torah. He's in the lower world. He's bringing up the Akev, the lower aspects of the world, the aspect of the Torah Shebaal Peh, and bringing it back to the higher levels. So what does it mean that Hashem showed him Moshe Rabbeinu now? He gave him the extra hooks, and that's Rabbi Akiva of the hooks, and he shows him that, and then because Rabbi Akiva is the leader of these lower souls. Not that his soul is the highest, but he's the one that now is the continuation, the fulfillment of Moshe's neshama. But Rabbi Akiva is the Torah Shebaal Peh that brings it out into the world, into the ikvus of the Mashiach, into the end of time, and literally into our days where these souls are far lost and scattered, and they have to be pulled in with hooks that they're connected. Rabbi Akiva is the one who darshans the hooks. He's the one who darshans the vav. He connects the Jewish people to Hashem, even if they're far, far away. And that's what Moshe was showed now. And that's what it didn't mean he forgot. It didn't mean that. It meant that it wasn't really in Moshe's purview. It wasn't shaykh to his root of his neshama in a certain sense. And that's why I'd like to say that maybe from what he said in the beginning, the word Pekudei, which means to count, also has another meaning to assign. To give a mission. And maybe we could say that Moshe, who's called, is connected with all the Jewish people, since he's called the Das. He's parallel to the whole Jewish nation. This whole story of Vayakel Pekudei is Moshe gathering the people. Vayakel, he is the Kolel, he is the root of the Jewish people, he's the mind of the Jewish people, and Das. He gathers them all together. And the end of the Parshas, it says they couldn't put the Mishkan together, it was too heavy, and they had to bring it to Moshe, and Moshe did it. What do you mean? So get 10 people, get 100 people. What do you mean Moshe? They couldn't do Moshe did it. It means a deeper thing is to put the Mishkan together. You needed a person to put, who included everyone. It's like a king is called the heart of the nation, right? The word melech is the middle letters of the alphabet of the alphabet, because he's the heart of the people. Moshe's the heart, he's also the mind in that sense. Moshe's a little bit different right now, but Moshe is the kolel, and he gathers them together and he puts together the Mishkan. So maybe we could say what he's doing is by telling over the counting is not just giving an accounting. It's that he's literally assigning the neshamas all of their mission in the Mishkan and in the world. And that's why he forgets the hooks, because they're not connected as much to Moshe's higher level. They're maybe from the verses that are, written at the end, or maybe they're the ones who can't understand Moshe. A lot of people didn't understand Moshe. It says that Aaron, it said, Kol Beis Yisrael, everyone cried for Aaron. Moshe, because the women, the children, everyone, because he was a person of peace. Moshe was the man of emes, the truth. Not everyone understood Moshe. He was Ish Elokim, they couldn't understand him. So now the connection is now Rabbi Akiva, and he sees the Aleph, the Aleph, the small Aleph, which the Magal Mukha says is like the top part of the Yud of the Shem Hashem, the Kotzel Shel Yud, the thing that includes everything. Whenever you have something, you have to have a place where it's all included, and from that comes the lower parts, comes everything out. That's called the tip of the Yud, or it's called the Lal sometimes. That means that there's a place where all the Jews and a certain place, all of reality is connected, and then it comes out. And there are parts that are very, very lowly, but they still exist in the Aleph Ze'ira, in the small Aleph, in the very place where they were. And therefore they're brought in even with hooks, just to connect them to the righteous people and to the people that want to do the right thing. And that's also, we could understand possibly the story of Purim, how it comes out here. The letter Vav, the Musa text is the Vav, when you write it, Vav, Vav, it's 12. Well, 12 we understand is what's called the Alachsonim, the 12 aspects, the 12 edges of an item. That's why there's 12 tribes. There's 12 months of the year. But there's also, when you write the Vav, when it's what's called its miloi, it's fill, it's spelled Vav Aleph Vav, which is now 13. So Vav is the expansion, is the connection, it's the 12 expansions, it's the 12 tribes, it's the 12 months, but sometimes a 13th month. It's the Vav when it has the Aleph in the middle. Why is that? Because the 13th month is the gematria of Echad, oneness. But there's an expansion for 12, but there's another gate where some people are nechashali macharecha. They're outside. They need to be pulled in. It's the end of the year. We had 12 months. We're far from Nisan. We're far from redemption, and people are lost. Adar now is going to add an extra month to pull those people in, which really is the story of Purim. It literally is. I mean, Purim is the Sofa Nisan, that's Niton Kosev. It's the bringing in into the times of Geula. That's why in certain places we say that Purim is the highest level. There's a halacha that if an ani comes, you should give every poor person that asks. Normally you discern, yes, no. One of the deeper reasons is because on this day Hashem gives all of us in that way. The light of Purim is so powerful that it goes to everyone. Anyone who wants to get it. So someone says, give me something. This guy says, nah, give him something. Because Purim is that flow that's going to bring in everyone that's even fallen out of the camp in the very, very end of the year. That's the extra Adar. That's the full expression of Vav, the connection, the hooks that connect us to it. That's what it is. And that's why there's an amazing Chazal. It says that, Salaka Cohen brings it. There's a Gemara. It says that it's a Mishnah. It says that Kol Yisrael, all Jews have a portion of the world to come, and then it gives a list of people that don't. 7 categories, 7 people that don't have a portion of the world to come. Okay, so everyone does, but people can lose it, God forbid. Then the Gemara later says, the Dorshe Reshumos, the ones who could read the imprint The Darsh, the Roshem, the just the imprint of something, they see everyone's got a portion of the world to come. How does that work? It's a mystery. It's not Chasam Hashem is Mavater. It's not that Hashem is saying, oh, okay, well, that's okay. No, Hashem is, as the Pasuk says, he creates realities that built that no one should be lost. A person will come back in the Gilgal, a person will this, with that, one way or another, even with using our free will when Hashem puts it, or the punishments, or God forbid if that comes from that way. However it's going to work, Hashem is going to move it. There's a certain place that cannot be tainted. The same way it says when a person does an Avera, his neshama leaves because the neshama can't be tainted. There's an aspect inside all of us that is holy, that can't be ruined. And even the lowest person has a place where that vav, that hook, can bring him back to where he's supposed to be. That's the power of Purim. It really is the power of Purim. This year we got an extra Adar. We have that ability to get everyone in. And that is the power of Moshe Rabbeinu being shown as the root of the Torah Shebachtav, that I built with the 600,000 central souls. I gave them the assignment. They are the Adonim. They are the foundation that I gathered from their half shekels to build the Mishkan. But then he is given and shown his extension of his neshama, Rebbe Akiva, who is the one who's the Torah Shabbal Peh, who reminds him of even the souls that were outside are going to be brought back in through the hooks, the vavim that connect us to where we have to be. All right, all the best, everyone.